Hi, I'm your host, Lance Runyon, and today Garrett Mole will be joining us. We are thrilled to have you join us for another inspiring episode. In this episode, we will be going behind the scenes with Mike Donatelli, who is a fitness coach, an Ironman, a strongman, an ultramarathoner, and a professional hype man. You can follow him at Mike Donatelli on Twitter, Instagram. We will share personal stories and valuable insights, and we're excited to bring you a fascinating conversation that will inspire and motivate you to chase your dreams and achieve greatness, both on and off the mat. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike Donatelli and dive into the Elite Wrestling Club podcast world.
Let's
He is.
go. Dang. I can give you the title of professional hype man, bro. That was great. Thanks for that.
Heck yeah, man. Rocking the best day ever merch.
We
Looks
are.
good.
Thanks,
Looks
bro.
good.
Hey, if you guys need a merch team, I know a couple guys. They rock it, they crush it. Yeah, no, best day ever has been special and a lot. I shared this with Garrett the first time we ever connected. You know, best day ever was just a mantra that I told myself to try to get myself in a more positive frame of mind, get excited for the day, especially if I wasn't super pumped for what was in store. And it wasn't until that I had I had the idea, I had the vision, and Garrett was the man that could really make it happen because I don't know if I would have ever actually took it anywhere in terms of merch and the overarching vision because that kind of back end systems and back end scene of what goes into creating a merchandise line was something that I didn't even want to take on. I had a lot of other projects to focus my time and energy on, and I just wanted to set the vision. And Garrett came through and delivered something that has been so special for me. It's crazy every time. Like I get messages. I've gotten guys send me pictures of them wearing best day ever merch while they're in the delivery room just having their child, and just seeing what this message has brought so many people, it touches me in a way that I never thought that a message could move me. And I never thought this vision for what I wanted best ever to would actually come to fruition. And it's because of our man Garrett Mole, because he was able to make it such a dope merch line. And I'm so grateful for him. And then through connection with him, I got to meet Lance, and it's been amazing ever since working with you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You've definitely impacted myself as well. I mean, just seeing the orders that come through for best day ever, I'm like, man, like you're growing it. You're who you are, and I just love it, man. Thanks for allowing me to be a
Appreciate
part
you.
of it too.
Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, dude. Whole team. Everyone can use a little bit more positivity in their life, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. No, I love the best day ever, and what goes on behind it. And I loved going out there to Colorado and meeting you guys for sure. Just super authentic. Um, and I think that's the coolest thing to see. I mean, we watch you, run social media, post your videos, make your tweets, and it's like this guy's living it though. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing. I think when you know that somebody's being honest, but they're also um, living it, not just saying it. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's why your message is spreading so much because your actions are speaking louder than your words, and your words are there to back it up. So pretty cool,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, and I think
Appreciate
it's
you
cool too.
guys.
Like, just like I think when we think best day ever, we're like all these good things are happening in our day. But like I think a best day ever could also be a day that maybe things aren't going right, but it's something that kind of made you grow, adapt a little bit, and it's going to get you to where you're wanting to be too. So being thankful for the bad days as well. You don't get to pick what you always get to be thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great point. And we've talked multiple times on the phone about this, right? About this idea that best day ever is not just one of those toxic positivity things. Like to me, it was never about that. It was about two words: ownership and optimism. Understanding that, every 24 hours you have a choice over how you go into the day. You can't control how things end. You can't control the obstacles you're going to face, but you can control how you enter and approach those days. And if you go in believing that the day is going to be the best day ever, you go in excited, ready for new opportunities, new connections, what happens is the universe aligns with that energy. Like it just happens that way. And even if something is thrown your way that is unfavorable and you were totally unprepared and unexpected, you go in with a different viewpoint because now you're viewing the situation from a little bit more of a positive lens. And when you have that positive lens, you can immediately search for a solution and that silver lining and say, hey, you know what? This is sent not to break me, but to build me. This was sent, for me. It's not happening to me. And so that was the whole idea of Best Day Ever. But it again relies on that optimism, but also the ownership and understanding, hey, it's up to me. If I want to live the life that I want to live, I want to have a whole life full of Best Day Evers, I got to do the work. I got to show up. I got to wake up when I necessarily don't want to and get my workout in because I know that takes, me into a completely different just frame of mind and frame of body for that day. I have to wake up and I have to nurture those relationships that mean the most to me in order to live a meaningful life. I have to go after my passions. I have to spend the extra hours on my business. And that's what Best Day Ever is all about. It's not just this, hey, wake up, every day is great, happy. No, there's work to be done and we're going to do it, but we know that it's for a bigger purpose and it's going to serve us deep down because we all know delayed gratification is way better than anything we can get in that moment.
I love that.
Heck yeah.
And that was good.
Best Day Ever, baby.
So Garrett mentioned you have, a little bit of a wrestling background. Obviously, I'm sure going through wrestling and having some of those characteristics, those lessons, those hardships, just through the sport in general has shaped you, and the areas that you're now working in as a fitness coach. Like I mentioned, Ironman, strongman, ultra marathoner, and then even just your perspective that you talk about now. I think a background in faith really allows someone to really hold true to that perspective and hold true to the truth, and having just a bigger purpose beyond this life here on earth. And I think that's super cool that you have that background. And so I guess I just want to kind of dive into how wrestling kind of impacted you and how it shaped your experiences and your journey thus far beyond it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to say the two biggest impactors on who I am today are my family and wrestling. Those are the two biggest roles. I've had a lot of amazing people in my life, a lot of amazing mentors, and yes, I'm so grateful for them and all they've done for me. But just this time, the span of time that I was in wrestling, starting when I was about, I think, first grade, going up until my senior year of high school, I learned a lot on those mats and in that room that shaped me to do all the things that you mentioned, build my own business of fitness and nutrition coaching, win strongman competitions, win powerlifting meets, compete and finish in Ironmans, compete and finish in ultra marathons. And it all comes back to really like my time in the sport of wrestling. I'm sure you guys have talked endlessly on this podcast about all of the characteristics that make up a successful wrestler and that someone that goes through the sport. But I know for me, the biggest thing was this, this importance of doing something because you love to do it, whether it's hard or not. Wrestling is a sport that doesn't get a lot of attention. I don't know how your guys' high school was, but in my high school, no one showed up to the meets, and it was well known that the wrestlers were the hardest workers in the school. Like we got none of the glory. And wrestlers don't do it for the glory. They do it because they love the grind. They love their teammates. They love, the hard practice, the long weight cuts in a sick, messed up way. There's a part of us that just loves that kind of stuff. And it's because you realize what that's doing to the person inside you, right? It's how you're shaping yourself and what it's going to give you, long after the sport. And that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had in wrestling is just doing it because you just have this deep underlying desire to improve yourself and develop yourself. And that's led me to always seek out that challenge, not because I cared about what other people thought or what glory or what accolades I could have. It was all about what it would do for my own development as a man, as a son, as a friend, as a coach. And if I could pursue that hard thing and stick with it, I knew I would get to where I wanted to get to. And so when I finished wrestling, I immediately knew I needed to get into something that was going to push me. And so the first natural progression then was strength sports. I went into powerlifting, had success there, won competitions, and then I went into strongman, still searching for that kind of hole that wrestling I had after I was done with wrestling, right? That like need to just push myself physically to the absolute limit. And so I went into strongman, had success. And then it wasn't until I got found endurance sports where I had to do long bouts of, an Ironman, 140 miles traveled across a day, just under 14 hours. I was swimming, biking and running, 50K runs. Like, it wasn't until I found endurance and paired that with strength sports that I really found that mesh that wrestling gave me, and just the hard beat downs on your body, but then also just the mental taxation of, oh my God, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I still got to keep going. That you really can't replicate in wrestling, but when I paired it with strength and endurance, it was the next best thing. So I guess that's a long-winded answer, but at the end of the day, I've always been searching for that next thing to fill that wrestling void ever since I've finished. And it's because wrestling instilled that mindset of, hey, I just always got to push myself if I want to get to where I want to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Lance and I have talked about that too, is like, don't get me wrong, I love winning, I love competing, but I don't think that's why I fell in love with the sport. I think it's because of who it's made me, who I've been able to meet through it. Like, we're three guys from three different states, and we're here on a podcast right now. Like, who knows if we didn't have wrestling, if we'd even be on here together. So things like that are why I fell in love with this sport and why I want to keep being involved with it. And I think that's kind of what you're saying too.
Definitely.
Oh, I just was going to say another
Wrestling's
thing.
a
I like
special sport,
what
and
you
the people
said
are
about it, just
go
finding the
ahead.
importance of doing something you love, no matter how hard it is. I think a lot of people struggle with the word hard, and realizing that it's not, life isn't always going to be easy, but it will be better, and when you're seeking out those hard things, the word is hard for a reason, right? It's not always going to be easy, but it's the things that you get out of those hardships, those adversities, those hard workouts, those mental trainings, overcoming injuries, cutting weight, all that stuff that forges you into the man you are today. And I liked how you talked about seeking out that challenge as well, with powerlifting, strongman, endurance comps, um, and how you've kind of been able to do all of those things. And I think that's a little bit of a misconception, where a lot of people think that you can't do all those things, you can only do one of those things, because they don't really, endurance and lifting don't really go together. You know what I mean? It's like one or the other. And that's what, like Ryan kind of talked a little bit about at the Do Hard Things conference. It's like you got to be able to
Totally.
kind of find a balance in your training. But if you want to be really good at one, you're going to have to focus more on that. If you want to be a good lifter, you're going to have to lift. It doesn't mean you can't go for a run. Same thing with like wrestling. You want to be really good at wrestling, you're going to have to find something outside of wrestling that you have passion for, whether it's disc golfing or whether you play football or baseball or want to go play a pickup game of basketball on the weekends. You got to find something else, so you're not constantly focused on this one thing that you have passion for.
How do you balance everything?
Definitely. Ooh, yeah, that's a great question, right? And it's taken me really the better part of 2 years, because like as I said, once I got out of wrestling, I was in strength sports pretty consistently for about 4 years while I was in college, and then it hasn't been since the last 2 years that I've also started dabbling in endurance. And really in the last year, I found my balance with it. And it all comes down to just understanding how different stimuluses impact the body and understanding how you can manipulate that to still, do both without feeling like you're always just beat up. So, it was a lot of experimentation, but even with what Lance said, like at the end of the day, you got to decide, you still have to have a focus because otherwise you're not going to make progress. So what I've really found the benefit to doing more of a hybrid style of training is that I can just always have them in, but I just kind of tune them up and down based on, what my specific goals are. So right now I'm training for a half Ironman in 2 weeks and then a full Ironman at the very beginning of November. And so right now my lifting dial, which had been up during the summer because I was trying to hit, I wanted to hit a 405. So then I just lowered the intensity of my lifting and raised the intensity of my endurance. And so I think what people don't, where people struggle is that they immediately try to do both and they try to do both at a very high intensity and therefore they just beat their body down, they beat their central nervous system down and they find that they're not able to succeed at either. And so that makes them give up and then they go back into whichever one that they wanted to do. And so it's all about understanding the amount of stress that you can put on your body and where your thresholds are and then just scaling based on what you're trying to actually achieve. What are your goals? And then, just depending on what season of life you're in, what you're trying to do, you can just move one or the other up or down to mirror those goals and allow you to still progress. But at no point, do you ever have to give all of them up? Because you can still maintain, like realistically, it takes about 40 to 50%, if that. You can probably get away with like 35% of what your max is to maintain. So like I right now am only lifting probably 3 days a week versus when I'm full go in lifting, I'm lifting, 5, 6 days a week. So my volume, my frequency is down. I still keep my intensity moderate. But I'm not losing all of my gains. It's just I'm maintaining. And so you can hold one variable constant and raise the other and allow the other to progress. And then when you're ready to start, switching your focus, you can just shift that up and down. And I just find that it makes for a much more fun approach to training because you're always just doing something. Like for me, I don't necessarily like to lift in the gym all the time during the summer. Like I'd rather go out for a run. It's beautiful. I'd rather do pull-ups outside in the sun, right? I don't need those heavy, grungy gym sessions in the summer. They're great, but I want my lifting to be lower. So I just lower it down. And then the winter, I don't want to go for a run when it's like 15 degrees out. So I'm more likely to lift in the winter. So when you understand this and when you realize that you can have both, you just got to change based on your goals and based on what you want to do, then you can just manipulate the variables to match that and allow you to progress in the way that you want to.
That's sweet. I mean, you're always tweeting about that too, is like if you want to go do something else, whether that's go play frisbee or football, like go do that for a workout today, you know? Like there's like in wrestling, there's more ways to get better than being on the mat. You can whatever that is for you, but
Definitely. The importance of having active like active hobbies outside of just your sport of choice, I think is really important. For me, I'm someone that struggles to sit still at all times. So I love to go for bike rides. I love to go take my dog for a walk, go for hikes, doing all of these different activities. It improves my overall fitness, but it's not as mentally taxing as getting amped up to go to the gym or go for a long run. And so I'm able to still progress my fitness and maintain a healthy lifestyle, but have like more fun. And so that's a big part that people miss, whether they're at a high level, like you would be like a college athlete, or at someone that's just trying to get a little bit healthier. They think that fitness always has to be this, I'm gonna beat you down, break your mind, beat down your body, and then build up. It's like, nah, it can also be fun, lighthearted, going to play frisbee golf with your friends, you know, going to shoot some baskets at the local rec center, like go play pickleball. That's going to improve your overall fitness. It's going to help you recover for your the real things that you want to put a lot of intensity and effort into. But it's going to allow you to just still raise that overall fitness bar and keep it fun.
Before we begin today's episode, I'd like to give a shout out to our first sponsor of the episode, the Wash Bar. Get your ride gleaming with the Wash Bar, located in Cedar Falls, Iowa at 1125 Fountains Way. The Wash Bar gives your car the VIP treatment. They have options for every need, from a quick clean to a full spa day for your car. You can go all in with the memberships or pay as you go, whatever suits your style. They remember what you like, so every visit feels just right. With modern tech, 24-hour self-serve spots, and free extras like vacuums and tire checks, the Wash Bar is your car's happy place. Don't wait. Roll in today for a shiny, happy ride. Thanks to the Wash Bar for making this episode possible. You know, another thing I'm really curious about is the different mental preparation that you have to put into these different events like Ironman, Strongman, Ultramarathon. If there's any differences in the way that you prepare mentally for each one of them.
Totally. Yeah, it's a great question. And you know, I think I'll say some differences and I'll share some similarities. The first similarity, because there's really one that spans how I've prepared for every sort of event from the time I was in high school in wrestling to everything I've done now. And that's visualization. Visualizing where I wanted to get to, how it was going to be during that time, how I was going to need to show up, you know, what I was going to feel, experience, hear, like putting myself in the shoes of me competing before I was actually competing. And that was something that I had a wrestling coach in middle school actually kind of beat into me. Like say start practicing visualization. Like he used to, you know, have us like visualize our matches beforehand, and especially if you knew your opponent going into it, understanding what positions you might be putting in yourself into. And that's where I really saw the value, because I went into matches more confident. I felt more calm. And when I went into a match calm and confident, the outcome usually was in my favor. You know, it was when I was antsy and a little bit, you know, nervous and kind of just jittery that I made more mistakes. I wasn't as crisp with my movements. I wasn't as fluid, and things didn't always go my way. And so if I could go in cool and confident, that raised my chance of success significantly. And so then I started practicing visualization in all things. You know, before strongman competitions and powerlifting meets, I visualized the numbers I was going to have to hit and how it was going to feel. Like I used to be able to like tighten up my back muscles before I was getting under a barbell for a back squat and feel the weight on my back. And that has just always stuck with me. And I did that before my first Ironman. I mean, every single training session, it felt like for 8 months in prep for my first Ironman, I saw myself fit how it was going to be on like mile, you know, 20 of the run, where I was just beat down, broken. It was dark outside, no one was around, but I could just keep going. And how it was going to feel when I could like go through the finisher chute and I could hear the announcer say, "Michael Donatelli, you are an Iron Man." Like I felt that just like surge energy into me. And so the commonality between all sporting events I've ever done, all competitions, has always been visualization. And so that's the biggest thing that spanned. Now, in terms of the differences in how I mentally prepared for powerlifting and strongman, strength sports, and endurance sports, the biggest difference was that I couldn't just get myself amped and hyped. Like when I would go into a big lift, realistically, it was probably only going to last about 30 seconds, right? Like a max effort lift. And in strongman, it was the max was going to be was 60 seconds. So it was a very short time. So I'm sure you guys can probably relate to this being wrestlers. You just had like all you had to do was flip a switch, right? Like I built in like a switch that was flipped right before I stepped onto the platform, right before I stepped onto whatever event I was doing. And it was like, all right, nice, positive Michael is gone. We're going into just blackout, rage, go. And so it was a very quick thing. And it was like all my adrenaline just surged at once. I was able to get the lift, and then I was good. And so I trained myself to just have that switch that I could flip. And that did not help me at all in endurance. Because now I go from something that's lasting 60 seconds to something that's lasting 14 hours. The switch doesn't
Yeah.
help you at all. If anything, it just makes it worse because you burn all this energy really quickly and you didn't get anywhere. And so all of a sudden, I had to mentally prepare myself to be bored, because that's the biggest battle. When your mind is, when you're just doing the same task. I mean, I was on a bike during the Ironman for 7 hours. Like, when your mind just wants to just drift into these negative holes because it's like, I just want to be done with this, and how am I going to run a marathon after this? And so I had to train myself to be okay with just being bored and just get myself into this almost like Zen state where it's just like I was never too high and never too low, and just kind of rode that middle line. And it was very different than anything to do with strength, but it's actually translated really well into other areas of my life. Like, you guys know, building a business, doing school, all of a sudden, like, it's very monotonous work that you're not always excited to do, but if you want to be successful, you got to get it done. And so I'm able to tap through that same kind of like mental space of just like, I don't want to do this. I want to be over with it, but I just got to go. So I just got to lock myself in, find my zone, and just exist there and not feel like I'm going too high, not going too low, and just let my mind kind of wander in this middle zone. And so those were the two main differences in how I had to prepare, based on whether it was strength or endurance, was just the duration I needed to be mentally locked in.
Well, I feel like that is probably a very hard thing to do. So I'm curious into if you had any tools or techniques that you use to be able to be okay with being bored.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me was just limiting my stimuluses. So I got a tip from a guy who had done a couple Ironmans before, and he would just say, like, when you're driving, don't listen to music. When you're just sitting, don't do it, because you're going to what you don't realize is that we're always stimulated in today's society. And until you unplug from that, you never fully understand what that means. And so I just started doing that. I just found situations where I was immediately reaching for, like, even just like sitting on the couch, like I would reach for my phone and just scroll, right? I put myself in these situations and I just was trying to be more conscious of not distracting myself, because when I got bored, I could then fully understand where my mind was going to go, right? Like, I didn't have any um, false stimulation that was pushing me in a direction, whether that was a dopamine drop because I just watched something super funny on my phone, or an adrenaline jump because I just heard a really good song and I'm really pumped up right now. And so I found myself just finding different ways to be bored in everyday life. And then I would push it. Like, I'm a big hiker. I love going out time in nature. And so I would just pair that with times that I was just unstimulated. And so by doing that, I was able to just train myself to be like, you know what, being bored is not a bad thing, and I actually saw the long-term value from it. But that was probably the biggest thing when it came to training myself to being able to be mentally present for these longer races, was allowing myself to be bored. And then in that was controlling my thoughts. And this is something that I don't really, it was kind of like I had already set myself for success because of everything that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, which is the best day ever mentality. And so much of keeping yourself locked in mentally is keeping yourself in a very positive place, right? Because you don't want to be the last thing you want to think about when you're 56 miles into a 112-mile bike ride that you have to run a marathon afterwards is, oh my God, I have to do this again and then I have to run a marathon. Like, it's a really bad place to go. So this is where just who I am as a person and the things that I believe in about keeping a positive mindset paid off big time for me. Because in those moments of like, hey, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm bored. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. I've been sitting on a bike seat that's just been riding up my butt all day. This sucks. Like, in these moments, I was then able to remember, all right, find some gratitude right now. Think of something that makes you really happy, or think of something that you're just, brings a strong emotion, you know, like my mom, like my dad, like my siblings, like my friends. Like, I would latch on to these positive entities in my life, positive memories. I would relive moments from high school where me and my buddies were just driving around listening to music. I would try to, again, visualize in my head what that was like. And it kept my mind from wandering to the negative side. So that was probably the second piece about just making sure that I was always feeding positive thoughts and not acknowledging the negative ones. Because the thing that can wreck you on a long race is those negative thoughts. Thinking about how much more you have to go, thinking about how bad your legs are, thinking about how uncomfortable you are right now. That's the stuff that will end your day really, really fast.
Is
Yeah, I mean that relates
being
a lot
positive.
to the.
You can go, Lance.
Go ahead, Garrett.
I was just gonna say, was like being a positive person something you were like your whole life, or is that something you got from like your parents? Or I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen you without a smile on your face.
It's one of those things. It's funny. People say that, and I'm like, well, you should come lift with me. Because then, like, if I'm in a heavy lift, like, again, I have that kind of like that switch that I click, and I just look pissed off all the time. And people are like, I don't want to come up to you in the gym. I'm like, yeah, don't. All this stuff. But no, so, in terms of have I always been positive, I want to say something that has always just been innate in me. I don't know if it was, I think a lot of it has to do with my parents and my upbringing. And, out of all the things that, the life things that happen, everyone's got bad things that have happened to them in their lives. Through all the stuff that I went through as a kid, and through all that, I always had a loving household. Like, there were things that went wrong. There were, bad things that happened, but at the end of the day, I always felt loved. And I credit a lot of my positivity and who I am to because of that. Through all the bad, I always felt I went to bed every day not questioning that I was loved. And so as a result of that, as I stepped into my own man, I embodied that energy and understood that, hey, not a lot of people can say that every single day they went to bed that they felt loved, they felt supported. And so I've always viewed it as whether it's a spiritual gift or God, created me like this, to pour that energy into other people, because I know that not everyone is as fortunate as I was. And so I think a lot of my positive energy and my outlook on life comes from the fact that, yeah, throughout everything that happened to me as a kid and the things that my family went through, I always was loved, and I recognized that not everyone had that. And so I just felt it was my duty to project that energy that I was so blessed to have in the first place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that goes back to consistency. You know what I mean? And I think when you show up with that attitude daily, each day it gets easier and easier. And especially when you go back to, when I wake up this morning, no matter what comes my way today, I control how I respond to whatever it may be. And so now I'm curious how you are able to help motivate and keep clients that you have, or people that you work with, or people you train, or you know whatever area or aspect you're in. But how do you motivate clients that struggle with consistency and discipline, and not only their mentality or that positivity, but also their fitness, and keeping them motivated for that too?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, with clients, the biggest thing is first shifting into this away from motivation and into discipline, right? You guys know. How often have you gone to wrestling practice and you actually wanted to go to wrestling practice? I mean, it doesn't have, like, yeah, there's days that you really want to go, but you realize that, hey, I just got to do it because I want to get my goals matter to me more than this temporary feeling. And so that's a big thing about just with any endeavor that you're doing, whether it's trying to lose 50 pounds, trying to improve your bench press, trying to improve your wrestling skills, trying to build a business, there's going to be days where you're not motivated to do it. So you got to throw motivation out the window. There's this equation that people think success comes from, and it's motivation comes first, then my actions come after that, and then I get the results I want. That's not how it happens. How it happens is you take action, you get the results, and then that motivates you to take more action to get more results, and it's just a nice cycle that comes, right? And so laying that out for clients and teaching them discipline has got to be the biggest thing. And so how I like to do that is by first explaining that discipline does not equal perfection. Perfection comes after the fact, right? So at the end of the day, if we're laying out a 7-day, week, and we're trying to hit, 5 days in the gym, you know, at the end of the day, it'd be great if we hit all those 5 days. But what's more important is that we're getting 5 days of some movement. Because even if, let's say, you hit day 1, day 2, and day 3, you've really faced that resistance, you don't want to go, and you just say, screw it, I'm not going to go, and then I'll go back on the next day. Well, what would be better is if you just went and did a conscious effort and just went to the gym, just walked on the treadmill. You didn't post up 100%, but what you did do is you trained that action of saying, hey, anytime I don't feel like going to the gym, don't feel like working out, don't feel like lifting, I'm just going to go do something. And so teaching this something is better than nothing mentality is truly what builds discipline over time. People just think that, the only way to build discipline is to do something like 75 hard or these really intense challenges. No, that's just a test of the discipline that you already have. In order for you to actually build your discipline, you got to start smaller and just always hold yourself accountable in some way. Whether that's going to the gym and getting your workout 100% complete, or whether that's just going to the gym and doing a 10-minute stretch. You going to the gym is what's going to build the discipline, because now the next time you don't feel like doing it, you already have a reference back of like, well, I went last time when I didn't feel like doing it because it's just what I do, so I'm just going to try it again. And then maybe this time you show up to the gym when you don't want to, and then you start doing your 10-minute stretch, and you're like, you know what, I actually feel kind of good. I'm gonna just try to do one set. And then you do one set and you're like, all right, I'm done. Go. Sweet. But you built upon that. So now next time you've got more. And so really the core of getting someone to change their behavior, to achieve a goal in their fitness and their health, is getting them to throw away the all or nothing mentality and embrace the something is better than nothing mentality, because that's what's going to build discipline. And when we have discipline, we can achieve a whole lot of incredible things.
To give a shout out to our second podcast sponsorship, Mulligan's Brick Oven. Savor amazing flavors at Mulligan's Brick Oven. Whether you're in the lively pub or the peaceful East Wing, Mulligan's has incredible food for you. Their brick oven pizzas and creative pub dishes cater to every taste, and they have a great beer selection too. They're open late so you can enjoy the delicious food whenever you like. Find them conveniently located between 18th Street and the Cedar Prairie Trail. Mulligan's Brick Oven, where every bite is a treat. Special thanks to Mulligan's Brick Oven Pizza Grill and Pub for their support. Yeah, I think that's huge. That's something, I'm getting my master's in kinesiology right now, and I think that's something that's definitely been instilled throughout my education is getting people past the thought that they have to go in and do this 45-minute training session and just be like, okay, well, I could walk my stairs at work for 5 minutes 3 times a day and get get my exercise in for the day. Like breaking it up into those smaller chunks and then still being able to be motivated for the next day or the next workout, or maybe after work you're like, oh, well, I can go do it again tomorrow or do it again after work, or Yeah, I really like that. And another thing that it reminded me of is Coach Milboy. He was a coach at Wartburg. They won like 12 or 13 national titles or something, and I've had the privilege of working with him for the last few months and through the summer at the Dan Gable Wrestling Museum. But he has this phrase that says "do it anyway." So even when you don't feel like doing something, you do it anyway. And I should actually send you the book. I think you'd really enjoy it after just listening to what you said. But man, I loved that. Just the thought of doing it anyway, even when you don't
Yeah,
feel
Heck
like
yeah.
it.
yeah, and I think too that's like something that a lot of people don't maybe understand is like like even David Goggins, like that dude is just insane. Like, do you think he always wants to get out of bed and run for hours or do whatever workout he's doing to scare himself? Like, there's no way, but he, like you said, he does it anyways. And if we only worked out when we wanted to, we probably wouldn't be working out that much or whatever the case is.
Totally. 100%. I mean, do it anyway. It's such a simple phrase, but it's everything. Like like I a big whenever a client of mine or a friend of mine is just like I'm not motivated. Like, how do you say motivate? I'm like, all right, what do you do right now? It's like, oh, like I'm in school or I'm in work. I'm like, okay, you're in work right now. What would happen if you woke up and you just decided I don't want to go to work? Because I know you feel like that. I know there's some days where you don't feel like going to work. What would happen if you didn't show up? Oh, well, I might get fired. Okay. And then what would happen? Well, I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. Okay. That sucks, right? Take your own health the same way you approach your job. It's not always going to be fun, but you know that at the end of the day, if you don't do it, the consequences are way worse than you just sucking it up and going and doing something, right? You're not going to go to work every day and have 100% of you to give. No one can work 100% of the time. But what you can do is show up because you realize that at the very least, if you do that, you're going to check a box, you're going to keep your job, you're going to get your paycheck, and you're going to live to see another day where you're going to have more energy, more, focus to give, more work to put in. And that's just the cycle of life. But you never achieve that if you don't view it as, hey, this is what I got to do. And so I love that. Just do it, do it anyway because stop viewing like it's crazy to think, but we view our health as like a disposable thing. That's the only thing that we do have in life, right? So you got to stop viewing it as like oh, it's a hobby. Oh, people that do fitness a lot are a hobby. No, this is just as important as your job because if you don't go in, the consequences, it's not you not getting your paycheck, it's you having to shell out a lot of money for some crazy medical procedure because a preventable disease that you could have stopped in your 20s is now creeping up. And it's like, do you want to pay now or pay later, right? Like Jay Azeltine talked about this in his speech, right? Like
Yep.
we all got to pay. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You either got to pay now or you're gonna have to pay later in some other way. And so the same thing can be said about your own health and fitness.
Yeah, that reminds me of another quote. It's like, I think it's a hard life is an easy life, and an easy life is a hard life. Like you choose your hards in life. It's
Yes,
okay, maybe I don't work out, but okay, like you just said, I'm gonna deal with that later in life. Or I could choose to go work out and then I don't have to deal with those later in life.
100%.
Yeah,
There's go ahead.
well, I see you post little different tips and tricks kind of to get them motivate people, especially on Twitter, whether it's, hey, instead of going to the gym today, why don't you just do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, push-ups, whatever it is, like in your living room. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, now you don't even have to go anywhere, okay? And you can do lunges, squats, whatever it is, body weight, and do it right in your living room, not have to go anywhere, and make it that much easier on yourself if that's really your excuse for not wanting to go to the gym. Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym. Okay, well, save your 20 minutes driving to and from the gym, and instead, during that time, do whatever, 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, 100 squats, 100 lunges, whatever. So I didn't know if you had any, kind of practical tips like that for listeners to stay active and stay healthy in their daily lives.
Oh yeah, totally. So one of my favorite, if you find yourself, listener, always looking for that excuse, one of my favorite templates to use is what I call an ABC workout plan. And so the A workout is what you're going to do when you have all the time and you got all the energy. That's going to be your 45-minute lift at the gym. It's what you ideally want to do. Your B workout is a little bit shorter than that. So maybe it's either, hey, I don't have a lot of energy because life is really busy, and so I need it to be shorter and less intense, or I don't have a lot of time right now. I have some energy, but I just can't commit to doing a full hour workout of 45 minutes. You make it, maybe it's, the B workout is like a 30-minute at home body weight workout, right? Like you don't even have to go to the gym, but you got to put in high intensity at your home. So you set your A workout, you set your B workout. And then your C workout is the bare minimum. And this is the thing that when you're tired, it's been a long day, you have no energy, you have no time, your mental bandwidth is gone, but you know that you got to check a box. That's your C workout. And so what I always recommend the C workout being is just a 15-minute intentional walk, because everyone, even the busiest people in the world, have time for a 15-minute walk. Whether that's at the end of your day, take it and just listen to a podcast and decompress, whatever you need to do, but just go and do your walk. So then all of a sudden you have 3 options every single time that you're supposed to work out. And just depending on where you're at, you choose that. Hey, it's a great day. I got a lot of time. We're going A workout. Tomorrow, next day, hey, still doing great. We're gonna do another A workout. Oh, third day of the week. Oh man, it's been a hell of a day. I missed my morning alarm. Couldn't get to the gym. Now the whole day is gone. I'm just gonna do a C workout. I'm just gonna do a 15-minute walk. All right, fourth day of the week. All right, we're back. I'm still feeling a little bit off from my weird sleep schedule. I'm just gonna do a B workout. Fifth day, we're back onto that A workout. And so now you have built in levels into, based on how you're feeling, to just like, in my opinion, it's how you can pre-plan for the excuses are going to come. Because at the end of the day, we pretty much know that there's going to be excuses that, like, we can prevent those from ever happening if we do a little bit of a forethought. We know that at the end of the long day, the couch is going to be calling us. We're not always going to be wanting to get it. So if we go in expecting that to happen, we'll be like, all right, well, I can't use that excuse because at the very least, I need to go walk 15 minutes. I can do that even when I'm exhausted. And so the ABC plan I have found has just been a huge benefit to people that are prone to excuses, are lacking in discipline, and just need some sort of structure to hold themselves accountable.
Dude, that's incredible. I love that. I've never thought of it like that, but it's definitely something I've instilled in the last 4 years of college wrestling, because guess what? 5 days of training in the room, and then our coaches will go, okay, well, tomorrow's an individual day, so get with the coach for an hour. You'll drill, focus on little techniques or whatever, or maybe it's your coach recognizes, hey, just take the day off, go get outside, go play a game, go hang out with your friends, or take more time to get your homework done, or whatever it is. I think that's something our coaches are really good at, and they're structured in that way to be able to go, okay, these guys have put in 3 hard, good, focused days. Now, we're gonna give them tomorrow an individual day, tell them kind of get what they need, and we'll build from that. And I think that's what keeps people showing up for the next day, knowing, okay, I did my work. I'm not feeling great today, but I still did something, and that's kind of what it goes back to. That what we were talking about a little bit earlier, just doing it anyway, and valuing something over nothing.
Yeah. I know we're kind of getting into this, but I kind of want to ask about what made you move to Indiana, and that whole story, because I don't even know if I know the whole background.
Yeah, so the move to Indiana kind of has to go back, I guess, to my own journey of me traveling and moving around. So I went out of high school, I went to NC State University, go Wolfpack, and got my undergraduate there. Spent 3.5 years down in Raleigh, absolutely loved it. And during that time, really in high school, I had found this guy who you both know, Zach Hummel. And so when I got done with wrestling my senior year, I knew I wanted to get into strength sports, and I've been following Zach pretty much for, a long time in high school and had reached out to him and we knew of each other and I was like, I'm just waiting till I'm done with wrestling to fully go into stuff. So I'd run some of his ebooks. Long story short, get done with wrestling, immediately hit him up, was like, hey, I'm ready to start, hiring you as a coach. I want to go all in on strength. So then Zach coached me, powerlifting, strongman, pretty much all through college. And we just became very close. We were talking every week, almost every day. I was sending him lifts. He was sending me tips back, interacting all the time. And then I went down to his gym in Indianapolis when I would ever come home um, from Raleigh. And so we just became really close friends. And he was someone that I always looked up to. And during this time I was in college, I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. I initially went down to Raleigh, North Carolina, at NC State for animal science. Thought I was going to be a veterinarian. Didn't want to do that after a semester, so then I pivoted to nutrition. And just as like a side gig, really in college, I had been personal training because I loved the gym, I loved working out, and I was like, be a good way to make money, and it's fun. And then I really fell in love with it. So I knew through college that personal training was kind of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, helping people just move better, be healthier. But I didn't know how I wanted to do that. So I thought maybe I was going to open a gym. That seemed like the next step. And so Zach really started asking me questions about like what I want to do with my life and, just someone that cared. And so he's the one that then pushed me into like, hey, you would crush it in the online space. At this point, I'd done all of my personal training in person. And so I'd never done anything online, barely had social media. And Zach's like, hey, like at this point he had built a successful online coaching business. And he's like, hey, like I can help you as you get off your feet and like just, kind of show you the ropes with um creating an online coaching business. And so that's when he switched from just being a coach to more of a mentor for me. And so through my junior and senior year of college, he basically helped build up my online business to the point where it was sustainable. So then after I graduated, I came home for about 6 months. Home for me is just outside of Chicago, Illinois, and spent about 6 months just having some family stuff, and then I decided during those 6 months that I considered maybe going down to Austin, maybe going out west somewhere, maybe going back to North Carolina, and I was just like, I just feel called to go to Indy because Zach's down there. I could work closer with him, and that the nice thing too is that it was a close proximity to being home. All my family's still in the Chicagoland area, with the exception of my sisters who are kind of spread out all over the country. But that's what brought me down to Indy, and that was about a year ago. About a year ago this time, I moved down to Indy, and then ever since I've just absolutely loved it, and it's been great being able to, I'm a 20-minute drive from Zach. I got my other best bud, Adam Sikora, down here, and we just hang out, lift, work out, and build businesses together. So it's pretty fun.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, bro. We got to
We're
get you
gonna
guys
we're gonna have to
down
make
to
a
Indy.
trip here. Yeah, Lance and I talked about that for sure. So it's gonna happen.
Definitely. If I could recommend, come in like the summer. It's way more fun. Way more fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to make a trip out there this summer, hang out with you guys for a few days, get some content, do some stuff like that. That'd
Definitely.
be pretty cool.
Go do something hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah.
You guys got a sauna there?
Heck yeah. We'll put you guys through it. Yes. Well, we're actually putting one into. It's either gonna go in the gym or it's gonna go into Zach's backyard. I don't know. I think it might be going in Zach's backyard. But so Zach will have the ice bath and the sauna, so you guys can come do a little hot cold therapy. Be fun.
There we go.
Awesome, man. Well, I've gotten a lot out of this podcast for sure. I'd pick your brain on your nutrition aspect too, but you know, I'm sure that would take a little bit. So we'll have to get you on again another
Yeah.
time. So I usually wrap up with some rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit and kind of some little interests that you have. So I'm wondering what your favorite home cooked meal is.
Ooh, favorite home cooked meal. Man. Gotta go. You know, as basic as this is, my dad grills a mean steak. And every Sunday, we used to have steak dinners during the summer. He'd grill out, we'd have the steak, and then my mom would make this really good, it was like it was a rice with like feta cheese and then a bunch of grilled vegetables and this really good vinaigrette over it. Oh, it just to me it screams summer. It screams home cooked, just hanging out with the family on the deck, summer vibes. It's the best.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Man, you guys are asking tough questions. Gonna go with Hercules, the Disney version. I
Ooh,
used to
that's a
watch
good one.
that
I grew
all the
up on
time
that.
as a kid. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
What's your favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot. So we used to go on a annual fishing trip up to Ontario, Canada, where we would get on houseboats and drive up to the middle of this big lake called Loch Sewell and fish for 7 days. Um, and you didn't have cell coverage, you had no connection to the outside world, and you're just basically camping and fishing. And so that place, Loch Sewell, that was my favorite trip growing up. We'd always go. It was with my dad, my grandpa. And yeah, that's probably my favorite vacation spot.
That sounds awesome. What's your favorite restaurant around the Indianapolis area?
Oh man. All right. Indy is not known for its food. I'll say that. Coming from Chicago, that was hard. Um, so it's not really a restaurant, but there's this ice cream spot called Bricks up in Broad Ripple, and it is my absolute favorite. I'll go up there, meet some friends up, get ice cream, and it's right on what's called the Monon Trail, so it's a big greenway. You just get your ice cream, walk, sit, whatever you want to do. But I love it.
And then last one, what's your go-to kind of hard workout exercise activity um, that you like to do?
Go to. All right. Man, lifting's always just got a place in my heart. Like I turn to a hard lift whenever I just need to just de-stress and just like forget the world for a little bit. So I would say hard workout, just going and just crushing an upper body workout. Like, oh my gosh,
There you go.
best vibes.
There you go. I'm
Yep.
actually gonna throw another one in just because I'm curious what your favorite book is.
Favorite book? Okay, so I have two. One is a series. So I grew up, I was a huge Harry Potter fan. Like, absolutely, have reread the book so many times. So that's probably my favorite, like, series. But my favorite book of all time, Where the Red Fern Grows.
Oh, I know that one. We had to read that in
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Phenomenal book. Brings me every time. But I got a puppy now. She's about a year old, gonna be a year in October. And so just like the connection that the little boy has with their dog, it hit me really hard when I was a kid because we had dogs all the time. And just like a little boy just going out and exploring the wilderness, hunting, coons all day, like all night. That was like the coolest thing for me, just exploring, adventure, and then obviously the connection with the dog. And so now I've actually reread it since getting a dog, and man, it hits even harder.
Did you ever see the
Oh,
movie?
that's awesome.
I haven't. I've never actually seen the movie.
I think there's one anyways.
Yeah, there definitely is. I just never saw it. But
Well,
yeah.
man, I got a lot out of that, and I hope the listeners did too. So I just want to say thank you for listening to the Elite Wrestling Club podcast. We hope you found today's episode valuable and enjoyed our exploration of Mike Donatelli. To stay connected with us, you can hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. We release new content every Monday. You can leave a review on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Your reviews help us reach more listeners and provide valuable content. You can also visit the Elite Wrestling Club website and follow us on social media for questions, topic suggestions, or to connect with our community. If you love the episode, donate to us using our Elite Wrestling Club PayPal or Venmo on our Elite Wrestling Club podcast website. You can go to elitewrestlingclub.store, click podcast, and then hit the podcast website button in yellow where you will see the donation heart in the top right corner. These donations help us to continue providing remarkable content for you weekly, as well as improve your experience for future episodes as well. Exciting episodes are coming, so stay tuned and join us next time for more inspiration. Thank you for being a part of the Elite Wrestling Club podcast world. Keep exploring within to inspire others.